In this video, we're going to show you how to install the master cylinder on your Toyota Tundra located under your hood. When you open up the hood here, you're going to locate your master cylinder reservoir right here. With the unit itself, we're going to be replacing this. Before we remove anything, we want to go ahead and clean it up first. Clean up where the master bolts up to the unit here. We don't want to have any debris fall down inside when doing this job. Use some spray solvent. If you want, you can use a bristle brush if you have a lot of debris around that. And clean up around the top here. With this clean, we can disconnect the electrical connector right here. You're going to pinch in on this little tab on the back side, pinch and pull, separating that unit. Move to the top side, going to pull up on this rubber cap, pull it up, set that aside. And inside here is a little screen, and there's a little tray here. So we're going to go ahead and pull that out. Go ahead and let that drain out. And go ahead and set that aside. The next step we want to do is remove the fluid that is in the reservoir here. I'm going to go ahead and use a little bucket that I had fabricated here. And we're going to use an evacuation tool or a tool like this here. And going to suck out the fluid. And just want to try and evacuate as much fluid as possible. I'm going to drop our screen back down inside, and that actually rotates. Get that engaged, and we're going to pop our cap back on. We're going to use a mat here, and we're going to tuck this underneath. And the purpose of this is to catch any brake fluid that might leak out when we disconnect the hard lines on the side. You can use a regular shop towel, whatever you have kicking around. You just want to catch that fluid. You don't want to have brake fluid running all over your components down below. So let's go ahead and remove our hard lines from the other side. On the side here, we have our two hard lines. We're going to use our 10mm wrench. You want to come over to this nut here. I'm going to go ahead and unthread that. And you may get to a point where you can actually unthread it by hand. You can just continue to use your wrench like we are. Here we go. There it is. You can get to a point, just spin that out. Now you are going to lose a bit of brake fluid. Nothing major. Let's go ahead and do the same for the back one. Our next step is to go ahead and loosen and remove the two bolts on either side. And we're going to use a 12mm socket with our extension. There's a nut on the back side. Just hold that. Now that's going to be a 12 as well. If you need to use a wrench, you can use a wrench on that, but ours came right out. Set that aside. We're going to repeat for the other side. Pop that line out. Now at this point, we should be able to gently wiggle this here, and we're going to slide it out towards the front of the vehicle. And see, we had lost some brake fluid there. Capture that fluid there and then remove it from the vehicle. Before we install our master cylinder, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of fresh brake fluid in a cap, and I'm going to put it on the O-rings. Now we'll go ahead and spin this around and install this. Slide that into place. We're going to install our bolts. Now what we're going to do is, instead of using power tools to zip this in, I'm going to use a hand ratchet and a wrench, and I'm going to slowly tighten this down evenly, going left to right until the unit is pulled in flush with our module in the back. You want to snug this down, so once it bottoms out, just give it a little bit more. And then repeat for the side here. All right, it's bottomed out, snug. Let's go ahead and install the hard lines. You always want to start these by hand. And once you get those started, I like to thread them in as far as I can by hand. And then just come on back with your wrench, and we're going to snug these down. All right, it's seated. Good, make sure that's good and snug. Do the same here. And then once we're done snugging this down, we're going to spray it down with some spray solvent and clean up any of that old brake fluid that's leaked out from before. All right. With both of those snug, I'm going to go ahead and use some spray solvent and clean this up. With this all sprayed, we can go ahead and install the electrical connector on the side of the reservoir. You're going to press it in, you're going to feel it and hear it click. Now we can open up our reservoir. Let's go ahead and fill up our reservoir all the way up to the max line using the appropriate brake fluid for the vehicle. Now the max line on our reservoir is just above this seam here, and you can see it on our driver's side of our reservoir. It's just above the seam. You're going to fill that up and then go ahead and install the cap. Now at this point here, we're going to go ahead and prepare our system here for bleeding. Now we have someone inside the vehicle. They're going to pump up that brake pedal 4 to 5 times and hold brake pedal pressure while we crack open both of our lines here. So they're pumping that up right now. They're holding it. Now we're going to open up both of these lines here. And what this is going to do is this is going to purge air from the lines and the master itself. We're definitely getting air from that back line here. Okay, pedals down. We're going to go ahead and snug these back up. Now we're going to repeat this process as many times as it takes until we get that pedal to get nice and firm. All right, let's go ahead and pump that back up again. You can see those air bubbles bursting out of that rear line there. Okay, the pedal is down inside the vehicle. Snug these back up. Okay, pump it up. Okay, pedal is to the floor. Now this is going to take several attempts to go ahead and get that pedal to firm up. We're just going to repeat this process. And in between, top off your fluid as you're doing this job. Okay, now at this point, our front line, we're no longer getting air from the front line here, but we are getting it from the back line. So we're going to continue to proceed doing this one. You can see that foaming up. All right, pump it up. All right, we can see that the air is pretty much purged. We're going to do one more try. We're still getting air from that. Go ahead. Now this is definitely a critical procedure when doing this here. You don't want to be on the road and experience a soft brake pedal. So take your time with this. Yeah, one more time. All right, there was no air in those last two. So we're going to go ahead and snug up both of our lines here. We are going to go ahead and spray this down with some solvent to clean that up. Give this a wipe down, make sure everything is clean. At this point, before we proceed, open up that cap and fill up that fluid. Top that off right to the max line. Install the cap. Now at this point here, we're going to start our brake bleeding process. Now the process is starting at the right rear. We're going to proceed to the left front. Our next wheel would be the left rear and finishing up with the right front wheel. After the first two, we want to go ahead and top off that master cylinder with brake fluid. Now we have this bottle here, and up on the top here we have our 10mm bleeder screw. Now we also have someone up inside the vehicle, and their job is to go ahead and pump up that brake pedal and hold pressure while we go ahead and open up this bleeder, purging out any air. All right, go ahead and pump up the brake pedal. All right, while they're holding pressure, I'm going to open this up. And we're following our hose here to get any air out of it. And then we'll close it up. Okay, pump it up. Okay, open that up again. And you can see we're definitely getting some air out of that. Okay, pump it up. Okay, repeat. And at this point here, we're getting a solid stream of fluid. We're going to do one more time. Pump it up, please. Solid stream of fluid. That's exactly what we're looking for. So go ahead and snug down that bleeder screw on the back. Remove that port. And don't forget to spray this down with some solvent and get rid of that residual brake fluid there. Now if your bleeder screw has the rubber cap, you want to go ahead and pop that on there now. Let's go ahead and move to the left front. Now here we are at the left front. Our bleeder screw is located right here at the top of the caliper. Go ahead and put our hose on here. All right, go ahead and pump up the brakes. And while they're holding that, let's go ahead and open this up. Let me see, we got a little bit of air out of that. So close it up and pump it up again. There we go, starting to get a solid stream of fluid without air. Go ahead and pump it up. And that's exactly what we want right there. So let's go ahead and close this up, snug down that bleeder screw. I'm going to go ahead and remove our hose here. Now that we've topped off our reservoir here, we're going to go ahead and proceed to the left rear and then wrap up with the right front. Now if that brake pedal still feels mushy, you want to repeat this brake bleeding process on those 4 steps. And if it still feels mushy at that point, you want to go ahead and use the scan tool to go ahead and see if we can activate that ABS and work that air out of the system. At that point there, you should be all set.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.